right, Tawanda, welcome to the podcast. It's so nice that we got connected. Of course, you and I met on Lunch Club, which is one of my favorite networking places. And I've been on it for a couple of years. And it's always amazing to connect with people from different parts of the world doing awesome things. So I'm really grateful. We had a chat and I was like, you got to come on a podcast and have a chat and tell the audience some of the things that you're doing and just some of the thoughts that you have about different topics around education and career development. So I'm really excited to have you with us. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much, Elena, for inviting me to be here. Excited to have this conversation with you. Thank you so much.
So to give the audience a little bit of a context about your career story, tell us, who is Tawanda? Where do you come from your career development perspective, from just your background? Tell us who you are.
Awesome. That's a wonderful question. I'll try to make it short, maybe, because it can be a long story. But right now, I run a company, an education company called Becoming a Willing Student. And what I do is I work with, I'm the founder of the company. And really, we work with these smart, fun, amazing, caring young adults who are looking for more from their lives, who are looking for more from their careers or from their business, or people just say, you know what, I want to do more with my life. I believe there's more to life than what I'm doing right now. So we really focus on helping people go beyond just getting hired, to really helping them become who they want to be in life. So that's our expertise. So we are really taking a different approach to professional development, because we really are passionate about professional development. And I believe that professional development is really about helping people become who they want to be. It's not just about getting a job. It's really about, are you actually becoming who you want to be, whatever path you decide for yourself. And then we support you to do that. How I got to doing this, really, I'm originally from Zimbabwe. I live in Toronto. And really, I think early on, what I started to realize when I started working as a young professional, and I've had an opportunity over the years to work with so many different organizations here in Toronto that are doing so much amazing work with different kinds of groups. But what I started to see was that, I really wanted to do more with my life. I really wanted more support, more mentorship. And I was looking for opportunities where I felt like I could leverage all the different skills that I have. Because sometimes you get a job, but you start realizing sooner that, oh my God, I'm not really fully utilizing my potential, right? And so one of the challenges for me was to be able to be, as an immigrant at that point in Canada, to be able to really figure out if I could get the support that I needed, because I felt at the time that a lot of the support that was available was just, supporting me to just get a job. And I appreciate that. And that's wonderful. I mean, we all need jobs, we got to survive. We got to pay our bills. But to me, that wasn't the only driver for me. I felt like there was more that I needed to do beyond just getting a job. So I was looking for mentorship that could expand my horizon. I was looking for programs that could help me figure out really to really maximize the different skills and potential that I have. And I started just speaking to other young professionals that were experiencing the same thing. And I started to realize quickly that there were a lot of young professionals like me that were going through the same experience that I was going through. And I think early on, that's when this idea of becoming a willing student came into being for me. I've been a program manager, I've managed different programs in the nonprofit sector. I've started companies before, and really a lot of my work has been really around business development, strategy, sales, relationship building, and program management, as I said. And so I really wanted to create a space for young people where they have an opportunity to really talk about issues around professional development that sometimes we don't get the opportunity to talk about in our workplaces. And I started to realize sooner, as well as I was working on this idea, that there was something missing in universities and colleges, that sometimes, as much as we appreciate the great work that academic institutions do, they usually don't do a good job preparing us for real life. You know what I mean? So I just graduated with my bachelor's in psychology, and I thought, oh my God, I got this. And I realized sooner that no, I don't. There was a lot that I didn't know about life, about work. And so that began my journey over the years that resulted in me creating this company and really being in a place where I want to support job seekers, young professionals, and entrepreneurs who are, looking to start a business or to grow a business, to say, hey, there's a different way to look at how you develop yourself as a professional. And so that's really the platform that we are building and we are offering to young professionals.
Hey you, thanks for watching. If you're enjoying this episode, make sure to share it with friends and family who might find it interesting. Make sure to hit the subscribe button as well to stay up to date on weekly new videos that are going to be coming out with some awesome guests that I bring on. And if you have any questions, use the comment section to ask me questions, to interact. I look forward to talking to you. And I can very much relate. I felt the same struggles when I was in the university, and this was over a decade ago now, I guess, roughly. And it's funny because this issue still exists today. So whenever you and I have graduated, and then to this day, it's still the same issue. And this is what's mind-boggling to me. And when we first chatted, I said, why aren't we solving this? I mean, there are people, of course, that are solving this, but why aren't universities taking it more seriously? And although, there is a shift, but I'm just curious, like in your perspective, what do you think it is? Why is it taking so long for something that's been a problem for quite some time? There are solutions. There are a lot of individuals like ourselves that are in companies that are doing things to come to universities, yet and what's happening, what I see is that universities are not taking advantage of of what's out there. And so these companies are creating almost alternative education programs, alternative like apprenticeship programs. And also corporates are now creating their own academies within. They've been doing that for a few years because universities are not even, are not really getting on board with this. Do you have any theories on why that is?
Yes, I do. And I think I agree with you that it's really a big issue. I think even when we met, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I did mention to you that the sum of 2020 and the sum of 2021, I had an opportunity to speak to some university students about some of the challenges that they're going through. And you could sense that there was a little bit of a disconnection between what they were experiencing as students and sometimes what you hear from, I guess, the institution or people that run, these institutions. And it's funny because in a way, not to self-promote myself here, in a way, the solution to that problem is actually in the name of my company, if you think about it sometimes. That's why I named my company Becoming a Willing Student, because I realized there was a lot I did not know. I had just graduated from college and there was a lot I had not been prepared for. So it was a challenge to myself to open up my mindset and open up myself to new information, to new ideas, to new relationships that could teach me things that I did not know, right? And so it was more than just a mental exercise. It was a deep spiritual exercise to really go deeper. And I find that sometimes when you speak to universities and colleges, that there's a hesitation to really be that open-minded, to say, what else are our students going through that we need to focus on? And I find, and this is my interpretation, that sometimes these institutions focus on the institution, and not so much the student. Because if you look at the student, they've got emotional issues that they may be going through, financial challenges, and all many different things that they're going through in everyday life. And so sometimes we don't do a good job on focusing on the student. What is the student going through? And are the programs that we are designing actually meeting the needs of that student, of those students? We focus so much on ourselves and protecting what we have created as an institution, which is great. I get it. You gotta protect what you have. I agree with that. But at the end of the day, we do a big disservice to these students because we are not meeting the needs that they have, the things that they're going through, right? And so I really believe that the solution is really about, having an open mind. That's what it is. And embracing conversations that may be very uncomfortable. I call them courageous conversations, like just open up and say, hey, there may be a different perspective on how we approach the delivery of our programs. I do speak a lot to career centers, and I know they do a wonderful job trying to prepare students for new jobs and careers after they graduated. But I think sometimes there's too much focus on just preparing students for the job. And then you get into a situation where a lot of students take those jobs and they're not happy with the jobs and they quit the job. I've had students say, oh, I didn't like my job, so I quit my job. So I went back to school because I thought that would make me happy. But now I'm doing this master's program and I'm not happy. I'm like, you know what? There maybe was a conversation that needed to take place before you made all those decisions, right? Because maybe the source of your unhappiness was not so much the job itself, but that nobody took the time to sit with you to understand your deepest needs and create a framework that supports you to meet those needs.
And, speaking of really getting down to what is it the student's looking for, it comes down to building a relationship with that student as an advisor, because it's not easy to sit, and it takes time. I mean, as we both know, it takes time to really, especially as a student, to figure out what is it that you want to do, because it's like if they haven't had that experience in the world, they're not sure what jobs are out there. There are some titles and some job descriptions, but it doesn't give you an insight of those opportunities. So it really requires a further conversation. And on average right now, a career advisor, I think one career advisor to a couple of hundred students in a traditional kind of large institution of 10,000 students plus. So they're servicing a couple of hundred students at a time. And and universities have the system where, well, it's time to choose your classes, so you need to go see your career counselor, or it's time to graduate, you need to go see. So also they're putting it in specific time frames versus equipping students and giving them opportunities from day one that they walk on campus, or even prior to that, right? Starting that relationship even at a high school level and building them to be a willing student, right? To be a driven student. And so I think, I agree with, I think career development people are making a good, they're doing the best that they can, but also it's not like that's all they're doing. They're doing student affairs, they're doing events management, they're doing a whole bunch of things. And then on top of that, we expect them to sit and spend adequate time with each individual student. It's just impossible. It's an impossible formula right there.
I agree with you. And that's part of the problem, right? Which is, as you say, it's really about building relationships with students and really understand what they're going through that relationship development process. And so a lot of these advisors, like you say, they don't have enough time. And so what ends up happening is, I don't have time to meet with every student. So I'm just going to do the best that I can and, and move on to the next thing that I have to do, whether it's event planning. And so I think I think it's really the solution is in how we design and develop these models, right? Which is, if we really want to improve the outcomes for the students, then we need to think deep and really think differently about how we design these programs, so that they are designed to be able to really meet the needs of the students. And that's, I guess, the challenge, because in a way, we have invested time and energy and money into this specific program. So we think it should work. It's supposed to work, right? So there is not a willingness sometimes to just take a step back and say, hey, let's hear what the students have to say. Is this really working? And if it's not, what do we do? And I think that's where relationship building becomes really important, because we are not saying that universities and colleges have to meet all the needs. We are saying you can create relationship with other stakeholders in the community that can actually be able to come in and be partners with you to solve some of the problems that you're going through, right? I don't think it's a problem that only one institution or one organization or one company or one individual is going to solve. That's why I'm a big fan of the work that you do, because I think it's going to take a lot of people to come together and be able to address some of those issues so that students are actually being set up for success, not failure, right? They're actually being set up for success. So it takes a whole different approach. It takes becoming a willing student and willing to really open up and say, okay, we are not perfect. We're not where we need to be, but I think there's an opportunity for us to have a different conversation so that we could start creating real solutions for our students. And also, hey, support the advisors as well, right? So that if they are being successful, the students are being successful, I think everybody wins at the end of the day. Because I really believe that if if the focus is really the students, and if the student is winning, if the students are successful and succeeding, I really believe everyone wins at the end of the day, because it really is about them eventually, because they're investing money and time into this, and they deserve to be to get those outcomes at the end of the day.
You know, one of my favorite arguments that I hear from higher education professionals, this was very recent. So I was speaking on a panel in Dubai. I was on a panel with 3 presidents and of universities, and there was another gentleman from academia. I forget where he was from, but so there was 4 people and myself, and the argument was brought up by the moderator, said, well, because I was pushing for this, I was having a similar discussion. I said, well, we're not doing enough as educators, etc. And the moderator said, well, higher education institutions are not made to prepare students for jobs. They're made to help students learn. And I said, and I've heard this argument many times when somebody's put into the corner, especially in higher education, and then that's the answer they give me. And I said, that's all wonderful, but then let's not sell higher education as it's meant to get us jobs. And I said, then let's change our sales and marketing approach. Then when your recruitment people go out there, let's change the discussion that we're not here to give you jobs. We're here to teach you how to learn, and see how quickly your numbers are going to drop. And of course, to this, very few people can really bring up an argument, because that's the reality. I used to be a recruiter, international recruiter. I know how that game works. And I used to be a career development person in university. So I know that game, and it's across board, in the top tier universities to smaller colleges. And that's where I urge institutions, like, if we're going to, if we're going to play that game, then don't sell it as that. And what I kind of argue with, and you might appreciate, is that you know how much they spend on marketing. And I said, if you just take that little budget from marketing, because it's all about resources, and they don't invest and make a priority for career services, right? And so I said, why don't you take a portion of that marketing budget, put it towards career development, and guess what? Students you're going to prepare students for jobs. You're going to make sure that they are a willing type of student that is going to be a self-learner, and etc. And at the same time, they're going to be getting, hopefully, much better jobs, right? And then they're your ambassadors, and they're the ones who are going to scream how great the university is, because you actually did what you sold them on to do. But yet, and we're talking about small budget towards that. Right now, very little budgets that allocated to career development, because a lot of resources goes to recruitment and marketing. A huge number. But it's like, you can look at the career development as your marketing strategy. So anyway, it really angers me, this topic, because I'm like, I want somebody to explain to me why it doesn't happen. I don't understand. And every time I ask somebody in leadership and higher education, nobody has a good enough answer to tell us, like, why can't we? Have you had this conversation? Do you have any answers for me? I need an answer.
I hear you. I think I think when people get to a point where they think they know everything, and they have all the answers, then I think you're already starting to make a lot of mistakes. Because then what happens is you become blind to new information, and you don't have that openness to see different ideas. And I agree with you that usually how these programs are marketed is that if you come to this institution, or if you go to this institution, you're going to get the top jobs, you're going to get this and this and this and the other, right? So that's what your marketing is saying. So in a way, you're saying to students, if you come to us and work with us, then not only is this program going to help you be successful in life, but it's going to give you this job and all this other things, right? So I think it's education itself, I think, is really about helping people, yes, learn, but also helping people learn about themselves, learn about life, getting them ready for the workplace, getting them ready for what they have to go through after they graduate, after they finish, whatever program that they may be working on. I think, to me, it's really is about helping people at the end of the day, because I think speaking to students, it's you hear students like, okay, I'm just maybe 1 year before I graduate, and I have no idea what I'm going to do. And you can sense the anxiety, you can sense the fear, right? And I think, if you're saying as an institution that doesn't matter to you, then I think that's a problem. I mean, you can justify it all you want and they can say all they want, that's fine. I mean, you have the freedom to say what you want to say. But if that is not important to you, the anxiety that your students are going through, the fear that the students are going through, not knowing if I'm going to make it, not knowing if I'm going to be able to get the jobs that I need, not knowing that if I'm, whether or not I'm ready for what life has to offer after I graduate, if that anxiety itself doesn't bother you as an institution, then I think somewhere along the line, you're not doing your job, you're not doing what you need to do, because your students are supposed to be your primary focus, because that's why you have the institution to begin with, right? So yeah, I agree with you. I think it goes, it's like you say, it really is, at the end of the day, I think a challenge to look at our business model completely, right? And how we do marketing, how we do recruitment, training and all those things, so that at least my argument has always been, if you put the student at the center of all that, I think it will force you to change some of the approaches that you use as an institution. I really believe that. I mean, it's hard not to really be inspired or to want to be better, especially when you listen to some of the stories that the students have to share.
Yeah, absolutely. And, at the end of the day, it just comes down to, like you said, emphasizing with the student. And I think we tend to put a Band-Aid on a broken leg, because the university will say, well, we have all these resources online and we have access to this and they have access to this. And then they have a career development and they have a career day once a year or twice a year. And and we have this, but is it effective? This is my question. Is it effective? You have all these different staff that is working on maybe under the career development wing, all these student affairs people that organize maybe these events to bring companies on campus, but is it effective? And the answer is no, because if you do a survey, which I've done before, where you do a survey and you ask the corporate world, are the students coming to you prepared for becoming a contributing member of your company? And the answer is no. And furthermore, many say that it's gotten even worse over the years, which again, hence why the different companies are now having their own academies. So it's like, well, then what are we really doing? And I get that there's other benefits to higher education, like social and emotional development and all of those things. That's beautiful. But why can't we do both? That's the question. Why can't we make it a priority? And this is I just,
I think you're right. I think we should be doing both. That's what it is. We should be doing both. And I think that's the challenge for students, because I also feel like, even if you look at some of the most recent research that's been done, it's companies themselves are not really good either at preparing their employees for
that's a whole other conversation. I agree.
To help them with career development. They're not really that good.
No.
I have a student who feels like wasn't ready, prepared with the whatever university or college, and then you start in the corporate world as a young professional, and they're not even really well prepared either to support you with the professional development. Then it's a challenge where you have people go through years working but not really sure who they really are, not really sure about their passion and what they want to do in life, and just going through the motions, right? And a lot of people end up just quitting because they're like, I just feel something is missing, because we don't really do a good job of just helping young professionals, students, just explore new career opportunities. We help them with, I would say, a holistic approach to professional development, looking at the whole person, right? Looking at the whole person, and not just looking at one aspect that matters to you, but really making sure that you're meeting all the needs that they have as professionals.
Let me ask you a question. So you work a lot with youth. I'm curious, this is something I've been I've been thinking a lot about, and there's a lot of theories out there, but do you feel that students who face adversity and struggle earlier in life, do you feel that they are a little bit more driven and that willing student characteristic versus those that grew up in a very comfortable upbringing?
I think I would say I would say it depends. It depends with the student, right? I don't really necessarily think that you have to go through hardship for you to become a willing student. I believe that we can always, all of us, embrace that openness to learning and growth and becoming better and digging deeper, so that we can really fully realize what we were created to do and pursue that. And so, but I think what I have seen, though, I'll be honest with you, is that a lot of the willing students that I've worked with, one common denominator that I've seen is they've gone through pain at a certain point in their lives. That's what I can say. Whether that pain happened through their upbringing, or whether that pain happened as a young professional after you took that job and then things didn't go well and you got fired, or something happened and now you're saying, you know what, I want things to be different moving forward. And then suddenly your mind opens up, like, what else? What are my options? What else can I learn that can help me be on the path that I want to be? So I've seen that a lot of the willing students that I've worked with, the youth that I've worked with, the young professionals or the young leaders and the young entrepreneurs that I've worked with, they've experienced pain at some point in their lives. And that pain has forced them to say, you know what, I want to look at this differently moving forward, because I don't want to go through this again, or at least when this happens again, I want to be ready, that I have the necessary tools to be able to help me deal with that. So we support them in, not through our programs, but also through coaching. But what I would say, I think, as an answer to your question is, was, you know what, to a large extent, you're right. To a large extent, you're right. That is, how you grew up has a huge influence on what you do eventually, and your determination. And I'm sure you've come across stories of people that had a really rough upbringing that challenges them or forces them to go an extra mile in ways maybe they would never have gone if they didn't go through that. So there's value in doing that. And I would use my story as that example. I was the first person in my family to graduate high school. Like I told you, I grew up in Zimbabwe and I was born and raised in Zimbabwe. And so I was the first person to graduate high school. I was the first person to go to college and graduate from college. I was the first person to do a master's program. I was the first person to live in another country. I was the first person, I think, to start a business. I was the first at everything, pretty much. I think most things, I was the first. And so what that forced me to do is that forced me into that willing student mindset, because I didn't have someone I could look up to. No one had ever done this in my family. I was the one doing everything. So I had to force myself. I had to take coaching. I had to expose myself to all different kinds. That's why even up to now, I love going to networking events, because networking was one way I used when I came to Canada to meet people and just ask questions about anything, right? Yeah. And just say, do you know about this? Do you think I can get help with this, right? And starting to develop relationships. I believe in relationships, building relationships with people. So that pain of having to figure everything myself forced me to really go deeper. And I believe, I was able to leave some footprints and sort of like a pathway for my brothers and my sisters who came after me to say, oh, you know what? I think he did this and that didn't work, so I probably shouldn't do it, or I should do it differently than he did, right? Or he did that and it worked out, so maybe I should go through that path, right? That's why I love education. That's why I started an education company, because I truly believe that education, if it's done right, it's really about empowerment. It's about getting people to become who they want to be. It's about maximizing their potential. It's about really helping them find what they were created to do, right? You're going beyond just learning. You're going beyond just giving you a degree. You're going beyond just, because you don't want to just learn for the sake of it. You want to learning that leads to growth, that leads to empowerment, that leads to new realizations. And it's applied so that it can change you and change others and benefit society, right? Yeah, so I would say to a large extent, yeah, it's how you grew up really has a huge influence on who you become and the path that you follow, I think.
Yeah, no, that's so spot on. And I mean, like you said, it depends, but I'm always leaning towards, adversity is good. And not to say that everybody needs to have this hardship, but it does help, because it ignites potential in us that we might not have even, I just feel like comfort. I mean, this whole podcast is about getting out of your comfort zone. So that's what it's about. Like, it's the shift, shifting mindset, shifting, out of your comfort zone, because very few things happen there. And you need to feel adversity and challenges and a little bit of struggle is good for everybody, I believe. So, and I mean,
I believe that. Yeah. I think you you grow to the extent that you allow yourself to get out of that comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're in that comfort zone, you're just getting used to what you do. And, I don't feel like there's that force or pressure that, accelerates you to the next level. So you're right, adversity, I mean, some of the greatest achievements in history is because there was adversity behind that, right? And there was adversity involved in that, right? And so that's why I think I have this love of learning, because I've realized the more I keep learning and the more I keep growing, the more I keep getting better. It propels me that whatever I encounter in life, I'm ready for it, because I'm always exposing myself to new things. I'm always exposing myself to new ideas and new possibilities, so that you're flexible enough and adaptive enough, you're adjustable enough that when stuff happens, you can adapt to that quickly and be resilient, and keep moving forward. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Listen, I want to shift gears just a little bit. I want to know a little bit more about you as an entrepreneur. So
Yeah.
I always ask this for people that I interview.
Yeah.
Is there something that you do on a daily basis? Do you have routine or habits that help you manage the roller coaster of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think you have to develop some habits, I think, for sure, because I mean, there's a lot of information about entrepreneurship, what works and what doesn't work, and people can give you the 5 keys to this and the other. You know what I mean?
Tell us what works
But
for you.
I like to really focus on I think what has worked for me, right? I think I always believe that how you start the day to some extent dictates how that day is going to go, right? And how that day is going to evolve as you go through, right? And so to always make sure that, I really believe in sort of having an intention, in knowing that as you wake up in the morning, you sort of like having an intention of what you want to accomplish. Hopefully before you go to bed, at least have an idea of what tomorrow is going to look like. So I almost schedule my day like the evening before I go to bed. I have an idea of what my day is going to look like, right? It doesn't mean I'm not flexible if things happen. I'm very flexible, actually. I think if you have a plan, you're actually very flexible. You can adapt and keep moving. So I that's one of the things that I always do to make sure that, I have a routine. But then waking up early in the morning, drinking lots of water, I think that's like the number one thing that I do. I have completely, this is for me. I've eliminated coffee from my life. I have completely eliminated coffee. I'm not saying people should.
But you're not the first person who said it, I'm like, I
used to drink lots of coffee. I feel like I was born with so much energy. I feel that coffee was messing me up because it was messing up my energy, because I was born with energy already. So I said, okay, I'm going to get rid of this and just focus on what I'm good at. So I drink lots of water, and that gets me going. That just gets me going. And I can sit down, open my computer. I'm ready to go. I already know what my day is going to look like. And, I pray a lot. That's my routine as well. Just as soon as I get out of bed, before I even make the bed, I pray. And then as soon as I'm done praying, make the bed, take a shower, and then begin my day. And by just drinking lots of water as well. So I think that really, because the more hydrated that I am, the more energy that I have, the more clear my mind is. And yeah, that really gets me going. And I think different people use different styles, but I think at the end of the day is to be able to be in a space where you are pursuing a mission that you believe in. I think that's the most important thing, so that you are not just pursuing things just for money. Because I think at some point, money itself stops being a motivation. I think you want to be able to focus on ideas that are bigger than just you. And I think, to me, that's what I've realized give me the most energy, that I know what I'm doing is helping people. I know that if I'm meeting with someone, I want to make sure that that conversation, whether it's 5 minutes or it's half an hour, that at least they leave that conversation better than when they started, because they had an interaction with me. Not because I'm necessarily giving them something, but because I'm allowing them through that conversation to realize that they can do more than they actually do, that there's more to what they can do in life. So that's really, to be honest, I would say my basic routine is wake up early, drink lots of water, pray, Make sure you have a plan for the day, and whatever happens in the day, be grateful that you have an opportunity to make a difference in other people's lives, and really just have an openness that as much as you plan, that life has tendency to surprise us and be ready for those surprises and not take them as stumbling blocks, but rather as opportunities to discover new information and new ways of doing things. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And one last question for you. If you had a magic wand to make anything happen in the world of career development or education, what would that be?
I would say the one thing that it would be is there is so much power in being in the path that you were created to be in life. There is more power in actually being in a path that allows you to become who you want to be. I think one of the things that I discovered a little bit later in life was that a lot of the things that I was doing, really what I was looking for was for that space where I can finally say, I'm work in progress, that finally I'm becoming who I want to be. And so I think one thing that I would really want to see in the career development, professional development space is that we just don't push people to jobs. We just don't push people to specific careers, or to just force people to start business, or to just force people to do this and the other, but to really help people become who they want to be. Like, take our time, take a deep breath. Let's get a glass of water. Who are you? What do you want in life? Where are you going in life? How can I support you to be that? Those are questions that we rarely ask until much later in life, right? When we've gone through serious pain, maybe that we didn't need to go through, if we had just started asking these questions sooner. So that to me is my wish, that we would take a little bit more time with each other, that we will be a little bit more patient with students, with young professionals, with everybody, and listen more, understand more, right? I think, somebody said, seek to understand more than to be understood, right? Like, understand other people more. So I feel like when it comes to professional development, we rush a little bit too much. And that rush then forces us to get into the path that we don't want to go into. And then we'll realize later that, oh, this is not what I wanted to do. So I would say, take your time, be patient with yourself, and really ask yourself those deep questions. And make sure that at least when you wake up every day, every step that you're taking is getting you closer to who you were created to be. Because I think once you find that space, you can handle any adversity. And that's where I think happiness is, because you can't lie to yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you cannot lie to yourself. So once you find that space, be grateful and help other people to find their own magic as well.
Beautiful. I can't think of a better way to end this conversation. Tawanda, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you I'm so glad we met, and thank you for the work that you're doing. And I'm sure we're going to be in touch for a very long time.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and for your time. I truly appreciate it.